Hello, everyone. Today I'm going to talk about one of the five aggregates. The first aggregate, which is rupa or matter, material form, is what I'm going to talk about today. And specifically, I'm going to talk about it in relation to the physical body. So, rupa or form refers to all material form, including the physical body. So we're going to really just concentrate on how it applies to the physical body. And as an aggregate, the physical body is essentially the container for the rest of the four aggregates to work in. Its thoughts, emotions, perceptions, and sense consciousness. So it's the container for all the other four aggregates. So, in practicing with the aggregate of form, we're going to see how, when we identify with the body, how this causes us suffering. So, the message for the Buddha was to really look at how we identify or attach to the body and ways, practices that we can engage in to help us so that we're not identified with the body. We're basically trying to see the true nature of the body. Because when we don't know the true nature of the body, we identify with it. We create a sense of self out of the body. We see ourselves as being the body and the other aggregates. When we truly know the body, we see that it's simply composed of a bunch of elements and organs and systems. The Buddha kind of broke it down as the body having four elements: earth, water, heat, and air, and 32 parts. And all these parts and elements are just changing continuously in each moment, and none of them have any independent existence. So today we might have a more scientific and detailed breakdown of the body, but his observation is still quite valid, that the body is simply composed of various elements and parts. At the end, I'm going to also point out another important practice that the Buddha invited us to engage in, and that's contemplating death and realizing that the body will ultimately decompose upon death. So these are all ways of breaking down our identification with the body. One of the practices was contemplating the 32 parts of the body. And here we see that we're not any one of the parts, that we're just a collection of these components that come together, and then we apply a concept, body, to it. Just a concept. So we apply this concept, body, and we believe that that's fundamentally a key part of who we are. Every time we experience and are aware of a sensation in the body, like a tingling or a throbbing or heat or touch, it's an awareness of the material form of rupa. And this experience of the sensations, we do this in the body scan where we, just become aware of whatever sensations are arising in the body. We're moving beyond the concept of the body to a direct realization of it, the sensation, the feeling of it, to its true nature. So, for example, when we speak about having, pain in the back or that our head hurts, we're using concepts, right? We're using the concepts of back and head. By observing the sensation that arises, rather than the static concept of back or head, we're moving into the direct experience of the body. So we don't experience back and head. We just don't. Those are just concepts. They're words that we have applied to it for convenience, to be able to communicate. We only actually experience the body as body sensations. So the fact that the concepts around the body are static, right? They don't change. So it makes it seem like it's a permanent construct. But the sensations, when we tune into the sensations, we see that the actual experience of the body is continuously changing. It's arising and passing. The sensations, the tingling or whatever we might feel in the body is shifting and constantly in flux. So we can contemplate these sensations directly in our practice, and it takes us beyond the concepts of the body. And this is what the Buddha was talking about when he said, investigate your direct experience. So we're knowing in a way that goes beyond the level of concepts, because the sticking at the level of concepts only strengthens the illusion of permanence and independence, because concepts are so they're static and permanent, frozen in time, you could say. So we investigate these sensations directly in the body. We see their true nature. We see that they're constantly changing. We see that whatever is arising is based on a variety of causes and conditions, so we can see the interconnectedness of it. We just see a flow of changing sensations that are dependent on a variety of causes. So in a sense, to boil it down, we're seeing that the body is empty of any independent existence, essence. So the body's ideal for practicing, for Dharma practicing, for bringing us from the realm of concepts into our direct experience, from the realm of head and back and knee and whatever into the sensations that we're feeling. And we can do this in walking meditation, and body scan meditations, also very helpful. We directly see the body, feel the body sensations. It becomes so clear to us over practicing this over time that the body is simply these sensations that are being experienced. That there is, in fact, no body, no neck, no head. Those are just concepts. They're just labels that we've applied for convenience to be able to discuss things. We could still use those concepts, but they don't teach us the true nature of the body. The Buddha put it this way, I'll quote him, whatever material form there be, whether past, future, present, internal, external, gross or subtle, low, lofty, near or far, that material form the meditator sees, meditates upon, examining with systematic attention. He or she thus seeing, meditating upon, and examining with systematic attention would find it empty. He or she would find it unsubstantial and without essence. What essence, meditators, could there be in such a material form? So that's the quote from the Buddha in one of the sutras. So what is the true nature of the body? As we practice in this way, going beyond concepts, going to the direct experience of sensations, what are we seeing? What's this true nature? We often think of our bodies as being limited, right, to the surface of our skin, perhaps. And that's useful in a conventional sense, because you can say, oh, there's Stephen and there's Stephen's body. But we're going here beyond usefulness and beyond conventional, towards truthfulness. See its true nature. When we do this, we see that the body clearly doesn't end at the surface of the skin. Right? Our body doesn't end at the skin, but it includes everything that sustains us. This body needs air and food, water, the ground, everything. In other words, for a single body to exist, in fact, for a single molecule to exist, it takes all of life. It takes all of the cosmos. So when we truly see the body in this way, that it includes all of life. It's codependent on all of life. Then we don't treat life as if it was expendable. We don't treat the planet as if it was expendable. When we know that there's something beyond form as well, the world of form can seem to be an illusion or a dream. It's the way that we looked at it for so long is just, it's not its ultimate truth. So the world of apparent form, this body, it's the concepts, the conventional usage is useful, but it's an expression of the ultimate truth. So all the form that we see in everyday life is an expression of this more ultimate truth. So we're not in this practice discounting material form or trying to repress it or denying its usefulness. We simply know that what we think how it is not actually how it is. And in this knowing, we can change our relationship to it. So we no longer identify with it as a me. We no longer suffer when it doesn't cooperate with our wishes. So this is really a key aspect of the practices when we don't identify with the aggregates, and in this case the body, the suffering ceases. The Buddha gave lots of different meditations, and I'm going to go over a few of them. One is contemplating the 32 parts of the body. I have a friend, Bob Stahl, who loves to give this meditation. Bob's a mindfulness and Dharma teacher, well recognized and well known, and he often offers body parts meditations. It's really kind of a chanting or a recitation of the 32 parts in a kind of meditative, contemplative way. So there's three purposes for contemplating the body as a collection of parts in this way. One is to see that our own body and the bodies of others are not inherently attractive. Without the overlay of our conditioning, the bodies are just not, we can see that they're not inherently attractive. It's just by looking at what the parts are that comprise it, pus and so on. The second is to break an attachment to the body. So this is where we're disidentifying with the body as being a me or my body. And the third, it builds into the third, which is to realize that the body is not me or mine, to see its selflessness. So you want to, in this practice, observe the body with equanimity and to avoid any extremes, really, of attachment or repression of feelings towards the body, any aversion. So to help create this sense of objectivity, of equanimity with the body, the Buddha gives us an analogy of looking at the body as if it was a bag filled with various types of grains. I've heard teachers refer to as just a bag of liquid and matter, all held together by the skin. So the idea is to go through the list of body parts in groups, and you memorize the list, and you simply chant or recite the list of body parts, and you kind of envision each body part, what it might look like inside the body, and what's surrounding it in the body, and you're going through parts like there's 32 of them. Head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinew, bones, bone marrow, kidneys, heart, liver, diaphragm, spleen, lungs, intestines, what else? Excrement, the brain, the bile, phlegm, pus, blood, fat, sweat, tears, grease, saliva, snot, fluid of the joints, and urine. And the steps for the practice are to first you memorize the list. And next, as I said, you visualize each body part and its the surrounding matter. And you contemplate kind of one group and then the next group until you can kind of easily go through all 32 parts of the body. And you can recite this and contemplate this in other people's bodies as well. So by doing this, you really start to see that the world of bodies is a collection of parts. They're not self. You start to see that they're not so personal. You might start to see that they're not inherently appealing. I mean, we create the idea of attractiveness, but inherently they're not really they're not appealing. There's nothing to be enthralled about or attached to in this collection of body parts. Another interesting one that I practiced with for I'd say a few years was a skeleton meditation. My wife's a physiotherapist, so we often had skeletons around the house, like not real ones, but plastic skeletons. And so it gave me a chance to contemplate the body in terms of the skeletal bone structure. So this also invites us to see the body as impermanent, to see the impermanent nature of the body. There's a story, a kind of a funny story of a monk who was practicing this meditation. He did it over and over and over and over again. And he was walking down the street one day, and a beautiful, exquisitely dressed woman who had just had an argument with her boyfriend passed by him. The boyfriend then went and asked the monk. He was looking for the woman. He saw the monk and said, "Did you see a beautiful woman pass by?" And the monk replied, "I saw neither man nor woman. I merely saw bones and teeth passing by." So there's a kind of an extreme example of not identifying with the self nature of the body, that it's merely a collection of components. Another meditation that the Buddha invited us to engage in is the body decomposing meditation. So in the Buddha's time, people would go to charnel grounds and meditate. So a charnel ground is kind of an above ground site where dead bodies are left uncovered and they just decompose sitting there. The idea is that they go back into nature, as vultures may feed on them and so on. But to do this kind of meditation, there are charnel grounds to go to in where I am in Canada. So my teacher, Matthew Flickstein, sent us all a video of an autopsy where the body was shown bit by bit. And we did a similar meditation. We examined the video, the pictures of the body. And he gave us a phrase that we were to repeat as we looked at each stage of the body being revealed. This will happen to my body as well, this decomposition. I cannot escape this fate. There's nothing here but an impermanent and selfless physical form. And finally, we can meditate and practice with death and become intimate with death and dying. Woody Allen's quoted as saying, "I'm not afraid of dying, I just don't want to be there when it happens." For us as meditators, the opposite's true. We want to be present for dying. And one way to prepare for it is to work with the reality of death. So we can learn how to openly acknowledge our fear of dying, and we can come to accept the reality of death, of our own ultimate death and of our loved ones' inevitable death. So in this way, we can be present for all of life, dying before you actually die and living life fully. So this includes our own death and the inevitable death of our loved ones. There's a story of the death, a story in the suttas, the story of the death of a dearly loved grandson. So the death of a dearly loved grandson is from the Buddhist text Udana, and it's about the encounter of the Buddha with a grieving grandfather who's just lost his beloved son. So in the story, the grandfather comes to the Buddha and expresses his deep sorrow and grief over the loss of his grandson. So the Buddha listens to him and with compassion, and then tells him a parable about a man who has lost a valuable treasure that he had found. The Buddha said the man was devastated by the loss, but the Buddha told him that the treasure was not truly lost because it never belonged to him in the first place. The Buddha then applied that parable to the grandfather's situation, explaining that his grandson was never truly his, and that all things in the world are fleeting and impermanent. The Buddha went on to teach the grandfather that attachment to things and people, including our loved ones, our children, grandchildren, is the root of suffering, and that true peace can only be found by letting go of attachment. The grandfather, as all the stories go, understood the teachings from the Buddha and eventually found peace and acceptance of his grandson's death. And although he still grieved and was still felt sadness, he found some comfort and equanimity in the knowledge that his grandson's death was a natural part of the cycle of life and death. I want to conclude with a fairly lengthy quote from Stephen Levine. He's passed away, but he used to offer how to live as if this was your last year. When we recognize that just like the glass, our body is already broken, that indeed we are already dead, then life becomes precious. We open to it just as it is, in the moment it is occurring. When we understand that our loved ones are already dead, our children, our mates, our friends, how precious they become. How little fear can interpose, how little doubt can estrange us. When you live your life as though you're already dead, life takes on new meaning. Each moment becomes a whole lifetime, a universe unto itself. When we realize that we are already dead, our priorities change. Our heart opens, our mind begins to clear of the fog of old holdings and pretendings. We watch all life in transit, and what matters becomes instantly apparent. The transmission of love, the letting go of obstacles to understanding, the relinquishing of our grasping, of our hiding from ourselves, seeing the mercilessness of our self-strangulation. We begin to come gently into the light we share with all beings. If we take each teaching, each loss, each gain, each fear, each joy as it arises, and experience it fully, life becomes workable. We are no longer a victim of life. And then every experience, even the loss of our dearest ones, becomes another opportunity for awakening. If our only spiritual practice were to live as though we were already dead, relating to all we meet, to all we do, as though it were our final moments in the world, what time would there be for old games or falsehoods or posturing? If we lived our life as though we were already dead, as though our children were already dead, how much time would there be for self-protection and the recreation of ancient mirages? Only love would be appropriate, only the truth. So that's a quote from Stephen Levine's book entitled Who Dies? An Investigation of Conscious Living and Conscious Dying. I hope you found this video helpful in understanding the aggregate of form, some of the practices is something that you feel you could engage with to see the direct experience of the body rather than just knowing it as a concept, and how that can transform the way you live your life. I hope to see you soon. Bye for now.